So,
Okay, here we have Marino's house. The year my father died, 2016, my father was a photographer and a graphic artist, art director. So he dedicated a book he edited himself to the island of Ios, to the locals, with the photos he did over all the years he was in Ios. And because he was a photographer, he had his own dark room, so he was making the, let's say, the prints himself. I had an idea 2017 to ask the mayor of Ios if I could use the big museum, which is empty since many decades, the Gaiti Simosi Museum, to do an exhibition for one summer of the prints, of the photos, of the original photos from my father, which are inside this blue book. And the mayor told me he has another idea. The municipality just inherited a very old house, this house. It was owned by Mr. Varinos, who was a captain or capitanio. He had no kids. And he donated this house to the municipality. And the mayor told me, let's do a museum. Because those photos are telling a story, are telling stories about local families, local people. So it's in his idea, there should be the grandparents or the parents going with their kids inside and to tell them, look, this is your grandfather, this is your grandfather, or look, this is the way how to build, or look how this was like Eos was 40, 50 years ago. And so then I started this journey. The book is called The Journey to Eos, so started for me the journey of creating a museum. So the municipality restored this house in a very decent, beautiful way. And I designed
the interior and the exhibition.
The doors, the signs, and everything. And for sure, the exhibition is only open, or the museum is open from spring to autumn. Because in winter, first of all, there is not really one, and for every museum, you need also someone who's here. And it's not only to open a door, but it's networking also, and to be in contact and relations with other museums, and so on. But now when we go inside, you already see, look, I have
Yes.
fans. So this means in old times people were much
Shorter.
shorter.
Exactly, that's true.
Because they didn't eat so much meat.
And also, what is this wood, for example?
This wood is, of course, a local wood. It's a very strong wood, so I can imagine it's not olive wood, but
it's a cypress.
It's cypress or kind of wood like this. They bent it, they covered it with stones, and in between, because when we did the restoration, I saw there's a lot of sand. And of course, it's perfect for to keep the humidity away.
Isolation.
It's isolation. In summer, it's cool and cold, and in winter, it takes the heat if the oven is on.
So this is a traditional building with very thick walls.
Exactly.
Like they used to be.
Exactly. But those kind of buildings, they work when you have neighbor buildings which are also alive.
So it's a network.
Exactly. And now the neighbors' buildings are collapsing, are not alive. That's why we have problems with humidity here. But that's due to the facts not of the way how it's built, but because the buildings on the left and right side are not alive.
Exactly.
So here you see this classical.
This is the traditional way of building.
Exactly.
With cypress trunks.
With stones, with branches. I mean, it's
everything is interconnected.
Exactly. So normally you would see here now a lot of the original prints hanging on the wall. When we go here, we see an arch, which is a bit pointed. That's a typical way of Eos building, because the buildermen from Santorini, they are able to build really round arches. And in EOS, you see them always a bit pointed. The houses with round arches, for example, in Yamanoli, the Cistern building has a round arch, but there were buildermen coming from Santorini to do it.
So it's a different way of building here.
Exactly, it's a different way of building, but also of knowledge of building, and also probably of the materials
They use.
that they use. And you see how
thick they are.
the walls are, and how strong also, because they are dry walls. There's no concrete, there's no cement, but still they survived many earthquakes, and they are here.
So how old do you think this building is?
So what we were thinking when we took everything off is that this lower part is at least 400, 450 years old. And then with every generation of people living here, they built something on top, they extended, and so came a whole structure and transformation of the site. Now I'm standing inside the pages of the books. You see a lot of portraits of people very close to the camera. It's not digital photography, it's analog photography.
For your father.
For my father. So this means also it was not a small phone. It was quite an impressive lens and tool he was handing in his hand, and the people, they look in the camera. This means there was trust. There was trust.
There was a trust.
And most of the people, they're smiling. There is a light. There is a life. There is passion, and there is no. They are not curved like this. They are there, and they are rooted.
Vivid. They are vivid.
And I mean, there, of course, there are signs, and you see that the sun is affecting their skin, and maybe. Now someone who's 95 would look like him who's on the photo 55 years old.
This is my grandfather.
I know, that's why. And so those are exactly in the chronology, the pages
of the book, huh?
The book. And you see, of course, landscapes like Minnesota Beach with no buildings.
With no buildings back then.
Kumbara, the family of Kumbara.
So we see how do you say, frames of the life back then. Okay.
Yes.
So from what we see, from what I understand, because I've seen this exhibition, life was much more simple.
Yes.
This is what I realized. This is what I understand. This is the feeling I get when I see these pictures.
Look,
kids.
When you see here, that's part of the construction site. The builderman sitting here. All the stones you see here, it was by hand out of the rock. So every piece was precious also. It's not like now they come with big machines that build mountains of baza, and then either they leave the baza and nothing will grow over it. So it's just a mass of beautiful stones, but which are useless. So even tiny pieces of stones were used to fill in the little holes. Yes, and of course here it was already cementoli coming, because we wanted really round arches.
But they were using everything, all the material. They were giving life to all the material they had.
Exactly,
this is very important. Nothing was left useless.
No, and also, I mean, this was a time where they keep on diving when they know there were still boats from the Second World War with dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
And also they were not only fishing with dynamite, but sometimes also just taking rocks away with dynamite.
Okay.
But we didn't do this. But usually you had the fishermen, a lot of fingers missing because of the dynamite fishing. And but it's, yes, it's those stones here. Also you see big ones, small ones, and they just use them.
It's very, very alive. This building is alive, and also the building that you built it was, because I've seen it from the sea. It's very alive. There was a lot of hard work, and from what we see from the workers, for example, that used to work here on this building, they put a piece of their living, of their soul over there. And this is very important, that all the buildings back then, they were carrying a signature.
Yes.
Of the locals. They were full of life, full of energy.
Exactly, and that's about this personality, individuality. So it's not a copy paste.
Exactly.
And it's not anonymous. So it has a personality.
And to connect with what we said earlier, you said that there was no plan, there was no architect in the building.
No, my father was an architect. He was drawing, and then of course he came with drawings and saying, "Look, here we do this," and then they had a rope and they had some sticks and they put it like this and to make the outlines. And every day my father and my mother, we were there.
So it was not like a strict plan or a strict hierarchy.
No, there was a vision, and the vision was to have a forest.
The vision was to have a forest.
Yes, to have trees. And so also the watering of the trees, the talking of with the trees. In the courtyard, we had the lemon trees, the orange trees, and we were so much caring about those trees.
So everything was attached to nature. It was not like an individual project separate from the land, from the history, from nature. It was attached.
It was attached, but also maybe it was a bit crazy also, because it's a rough area, and to have the vision to create the forest. I mean, now you can see a forest, it's alive. You need also with the thinking out of the box.
Thinking out of the box.
And also there were a lot of mistakes done. But okay, next year we corrected them.
But here on the picture we see some locals, entertaining or living, going in the cafes. How was life in the cafes back then? Do you remember anything?
Yes, I remember also the main platea.
The main square?
The main square, sitting there. Basically, it was Greek coffee, sitting, sometimes talking, sometimes not talking, sometimes half asleep. So it was very, it was not only simple, but also
slow.
Slow, yes.
It was a slower pace.
And there was no rush. And so there was also no need for rush. And so if someone had was in a bad mood, the person was just in a bad mood and left alone. And next day the mood was good again.
And this changed through the years?
Yes.
What happened?
Well, I think it happened the moment the port was built and the boats could dock on the island. Okay. This means the cars came. This means bigger trucks came. With all the products which suddenly could come to the island. And this was a big turning point. Okay. So this altered the mentality of the locals. We have something, let's say, a fast culture. Yes.
People buying from...
And they want a beautiful kitchen, a fridge, a car, need of more electricity, then the telephone, then comes the internet. And of course, and with the internet suddenly now, okay, we don't go to a shop anymore, but we order online. Of course it comes to the island. And also the fast living. You buy a pair of sneakers every 6 months, even if they're crazy expensive, because after 10 years you have to spend 2,000 euros on shoes. And the shoes they were wearing, they last for 20 years.
Exactly.
And they cost,
so all this tourism and the new port brought a different mentality.
Yes.
But what you do what you represent is trying to keep it simple, try to keep it local, and to be attached with nature.
Yes, and also to say it's much more refined and the taste is much higher. And so in a way to prove or to show, for example, with a natural wine, look what a huge palate you get. And it's much richer.
A huge what?
A palate, of taste.
A huge palette of taste.
And it's much richer.
So it's about quality, not about quantity. It's about experience.
Exactly, it's a quality and the taste. And because, for example, at the restaurant in Garden of Eos, we serve organic chicken, and the meat is not white. The meat is gray. But some clients say, "Oh, it's rotten." I have even a waiter who say, "I don't want to serve it. It's rotten." I say, "No, it's not rotten. That's a regular color of the meat of a chicken, and how it should be." And also people are not used to those tastes anymore.
So you lived many years here. What were the locals producing back then? Do you remember?
Yes, for sure. They had a lot of goats, a lot of sheep, so they were doing cheese. Most families did their own cheese. I remember, for example, when I was a child, the house, I mean, it was a rough building like you see here. But there were one of the construction guys had his goats also nearby, so they came all on the terrace, and we had the fresh goat milk, and this was so one of my most beautiful souvenirs I have, drinking the still warm, fresh goat milk. And when I tell this now to a child 10 years old, they say, oh, we cannot
Goat
drink
milk with
goat
film.
Yeah, it's also cream. And then maybe, the parents will say, yeah, but it's not pasteurized.
Not pasteurized.
So it's not healthy. You have so many microbes. And so it's all this industrial food now, what people are eating, consuming since over 30 years.
And we think it's normal.
They think it's normal that milk has no taste, that the cheese has nearly no taste, that the tomato
have no taste, really.
No real taste. So this also the palate is a bit destroyed. So they need food enhancers or chemicals to get it tasty again back. They put a lot of sugar and other additives. And what I try or I'm doing at Agora Cafe and at Garden is to be the purest possible so that you have a real taste. The chicken, the organic chicken, the meat is not white but gray. I have a waiter who told me that's disgusting what is coming out of your kitchen. The meat has to be white, so that's rotten. I have a customer who's also saying, oh, this looks strange and it tastes strange.
It's maybe its taste in probably the skin it's more rough, but the organic chicken is like this, correct?
Yes, exactly.
It's not so soft.
Exactly, it's not so soft, and it has a texture, and also it has a taste. And
But we're not used to.
Exactly, a lot of people are not used to it anymore. And so my aim is to bring this back, and you have it on the island. So we get the eggs from the chicken here from the island, and we cultivate our own vegetables, but with seeds which are not genetically manipulated. And suddenly people think, wow, this beetroots, they have a great taste, or the carrots, or the celery, or everything. Of course, it's much more intensive.
So you try to reproduce what you loved here on the island, the genuinity,
Yes.
the genuine taste, the genuine ideas, the genuine way of living.
Exactly, and to say, look, that's paradise. Paradise, it's not when you go to big cities, and it's not when you have enough money to buy your products at the supermarket. No, but the paradise is what the earth is offering you, and they need to be reconnected, to be rerouted. And I have the feeling that most of the kids, they have lost it.
Because their parents have lost it, everybody is working so hard.
Exactly.
And they lost probably their compass.
Yes, they lost their compass, and also they get very sick. So I not only that they're obese, but also they have heart problems, they have articulation problems, they have problems with their bones, they have diabetes, they have many diseases like this.
So we, instead of going global, you propose going local.
Absolutely.
Using local product, what it's up to date, what it's a season product.
Exactly, and when it was too dry in winter and we have no figs, so we cannot serve figs. Same for the honey. So it is like this, but we have other things we can harvest. We just maybe keep the menu card small and do whatever we have, and that's beautiful, and it has a good taste, and
it doesn't have to be very rich. It has to be taste.
It is healthy also, and it's healthy without having the taste of oat flakes, like I always say. Yeah? So that's what I want to show also. You can eat healthy food without thinking, oh, it all tastes, like this dry oat flakes, as a symbol of it.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
again, let's admire the pictures, the simple way of living back then that we miss because everybody is in a rush today.
Yes, and people were coming exactly for this.
For example, the girls over there,
They
are dancing with the old men, which is very important. Go back to our roots.
Yes, but be in the present.
Being the present.
Being rooted, not to lose the roots. You know, of course, there's always evolution, and we have to adapt to
the changes
to now. But don't lose the
roots,
and don't lose the quality of it.
Thank you very much.